Okay, good morning.
Morning.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you. Good morning. I have to admit, here we go. A little bit disappointed because this is how I would wanted to enter the stage this morning, like Billy Porter at the Met Gala last week. Unfortunately, the team insisted that I didn't have the ability to pull off this entrance. But look, enough about me, because today is a really exciting day for us. Because we get to sit here today with some amazing brands, right? This is just a small selection of people who are in the room, and this is, just really exciting for us to share some trends around the future of experiences with many of you guys who are creating the future of experiences. And the other thing that's really exciting for us is this is the first time we've live streamed an event. So we have hundreds of people from all over the world, hopefully global nomads, sitting in their beach in Bali, or often maybe a windowless basement outside Brussels somewhere. So massive welcome to everyone who's watching online. Few basic housekeeping points to begin. Thinking about your basic human needs and wants. Hopefully you guys have all found the Wi-Fi. Here is the password. It's also in your notebooks as well, but if you need to get online, as of course we all do, you can't possibly spend 2.5 hours offline. Here are the details. Hopefully you've all grabbed a coffee on your way in and are feeling caffeinated at 9 a.m. in the morning. If not, the coffees are in the reception area outside. The bathrooms, again, hopefully you've seen them. There are some by where you check in. There are also other bathrooms on the second and third floor, upstairs. And final piece of housekeeping is you will have found, you should have been handed a notebook when you check in. Today should be packed full of insights. I think our record for a morning event is 37 pages of notes someone took, so I hope you've done a bit of an arm warm-up before you came in and are ready to jot down as many light bulb moments as possible. But to begin, while we welcome the last few people coming in, what I want you to do, we're here to think about the future of experiences. So I want to open the day by turning it over to you guys. So what I want you to do is to turn to your neighbour in a second, and I'm going to give you just 1 minute to turn to your neighbour and share what is the most memorable experience that you have had recently. What is the brand, what is the business, what's the museum, what's the festival, whatever it is, that you think is raising the bar when it comes to experiences, and why? Okay, so I want to turn it over to you guys. I'll give you 1 minute to talk about this. Who is your experience crush? Who do you think we should be talking about? Okay, over to you guys, 1 minute. Can you tell Kathleen that we have the mics there? For when people... Okay. Right, I heard lots of people talking. Let's hear some. Who wants to just quickly share their experience, crush, and why? Anyone been to a memorable experience recently? Just raise your hand. Anyone? At the front here, yes. Do we need a microphone?
Museum of London, who I think do stuff so brilliantly. Their Beasts of London exhibition, which was stories of animals around London. It was beautifully curated and immersive as much as you wanted it to be.
So the Beasts of London Museum of London, an exhibition that really immersed you in animals in the city, right? So a bit surprising.
And stories, and just very well well done.
Fantastic. There you go. There's a top tip for anyone who's got the whole day off, who wants something to do this afternoon. Anyone else share something that you think is raising the bar when it comes to experiences? Maybe someone at the back, towards the back. Yes, lady in the middle.
I went on a tour of Mexico, and our guided tour was led by a chief experience officer with G Adventures, and every single day he would sort of brief us, but then also give us optional extras that we could add on. So literally, it was quite a small group tour, but every single day was tailored to exactly what we wanted to do.
So yeah, a tour of Mexico City run by a chief experience officer. Again, a job title that didn't exist a few years ago, but talking there about really being able to personalize the experience, right, and add on the things that are interesting to you. Okay, so we'll come back to personalization, obviously, in the future. Thank you. I knew I'd have to keep on asking until someone hit a note, because what I wanted to think about here is, you know, when you think about some of the experiences that you guys were discussing, perhaps some of those experiences catered to a basic fundamental human need and want, like personalization, like relevance, right? Is that experience meaningful to you? Is it immersive? Is it engaging? And we'll come back to this again and again throughout the day. So we've had a little brief introduction. Hopefully you guys have now met the people you're sitting next to. Now I just want to have a brief moment to introduce ourselves and set the context for all of the trends that you're going to hear. So we're a company called TrendWatching, and we are obsessed with this question. We're obsessed with helping people like yourselves, our clients or readers, audiences, answer what we believe is the biggest question in business: what will my customers want next? But as a consumer trend firm, we have a dirty little secret, and that is we do not speak to consumers at all. We do not have access to any of their data. Right? We don't live with them for weeks on end, so we can be hit with this moment of inspiration about an unmet need that they have when they're brushing their teeth or whatever it is. We do not speak to consumers at all. Instead, we are obsessed with innovations. We are obsessed with looking at the innovations of today, maybe in other markets, maybe in other sectors, aimed at different customer segments to the customers that you're trying to reach. And we're obsessed with asking ourselves, how will those innovations of today impact the future expectations of your customers? What insights can we draw from them? So just to unpack this way of seeing the world, this methodology, a little bit more. And if you've been to any one of our events before, the next 5 or 10 slides you will recognize, because they're the foundation of everything that we've built our business around, everything that we want to frame the whole day around for you guys. On the one hand, yes, we know the world's changing faster than ever. Right? Political change, economic change, cultural change, technological change. We see things coming into the world that did not exist 12 months ago on a daily basis. Right? That change is only accelerating. But amid all of that change, right, we're obsessed with change. Everyone in this room spends their life thinking about what's changing, but we believe sometimes we forget to focus on the fact that we're still dealing with people. We're still dealing with people who have basic, fundamental, relatively stable, unchanging human needs and wants. The desire for entertainment, the desire for personalization that we've heard, the desire for relevance, the desire for trustworthy information, right? Whatever it is, and we'll come back to this again and again, what are these basic human needs and wants? So we believe, right, the whole foundation of our business is based around this idea that you can start to see trends emerge as innovators address people's basic human needs and wants in novel ways, right? And to give you a quick example of this, right, I just want to revisit a slide. So we did an event this time last year in London, and we used this slide. And we hate using the same slide at TrendWatching, right? Because that makes our job boring, right? But we spoke about the Impossible Burger, and we spoke about how the Impossible Burger sets consumer expectations that, yes, you can still indulge your basic human need and want for delicious, greasy, salty, lip-smackingly good food, right? You can still have your burger, but you feel less guilty when you're doing so, right? Because you're not destroying a Brazilian rainforest. The animals didn't suffer for your indulgence, right? But of course, the reason I wanted to revisit this slide is because just look at what's happened in the past couple of weeks, right? Literally, I woke up this morning to read that Impossible have just raised $300 million, right? So they're now valued at $2 billion. If you look at the news they've announced in the past couple of weeks, They have just announced that they are going to be rolling out the Impossible Whopper at Burger King nationwide in the US. Right, they had a successful trial in St. Louis last month. They're now going to scale this into every Burger King in the US. Right, and we see Beyond Meat. Beyond Meat just IPO'd in the US, the most successful IPO of the past decade. Right, tapping into this desire for guilt-free alternatives to meat. But of course, like, this is no surprise. Right? It's no surprise if you've been watching trends, and specifically if you've been watching innovations, as we urge you to. Because we've been looking at these startups for years, right? As you said, Impossible Burger is not a new innovation. We've been looking at it for the past couple of years. But bigger than that, we've been looking at the expectation that that innovation, like the Impossible Burger, creates. Because what is the Impossible Burger if it's not the Tesla of fast food? Right? You can still have your sports car, still drive down the motorway at 100 miles an hour, showing everyone how successful you are, right? Making up for other areas of your life. But you don't look like such an asshole while you're doing it, right? Because you're not destroying the planet. So we believe that you can start to see expectations emerge by looking at innovations, right? Looking at innovations because I'm trying to understand the expectations that those innovations will create, right? Everyone who is in the content marketing business now has to compete with the expectations set by Red Bull about how entertaining business content can be, marketing content can be, right? Everyone has to compete with the expectations set by Airbnb about the level of community and sense of belonging that that business creates. Right? So we believe that this is the most important slide of today, really. If you remember one thing, it's to look at innovations and think about the expectations that they create. And so as we go through today, really that's what today is going to be all about, right? Thinking about these three elements that I've just laid out, right? Thinking about change on the one hand, thinking about how that change interacts with basic human needs and wants, and how the innovations that are being launched today will change people's expectations. So, with a bit of introduction, that is basically the 5-minute version of our 350-page book, because I know the real trend is you guys are too busy, you don't have time to read the whole book, so I've saved you from doing that, right? So that, in 5 minutes, is the methodology that we want to leave you with. So the other thing, just to tee up today, is to say, right, as I've already touched on, we will be looking at innovations in other markets to the markets that you operate in, right? Think about looking beyond the competition. Some of these innovations, I should say, some of these innovations you will not like. You may think they're ridiculous, right? This is one of the presidents of Samsung proudly standing next to their new vertical TV, right? It's just available, launched last month in South Korea, $15,000, and you can spin your TV to watch vertical, because they've done some market research, and they found that millennials and Gen Z love vertical video, right? So now, when you're going to stream your Snapchat videos to your TV, you can watch them in the aspect ratio that they were shot in. Right? Is this going to reshape the world of media, right? Media consumption? Probably not, right? I'm a bit skeptical about this. You might be too. That's not the point, right? When we go through these innovations, that is not the point. The other thing to say is many of the innovations that we share with you today will fail. We can't only share with you the Impossible Burger, the Tesla, the next Airbnb. Many of these innovations will fail. Again, that's not the point. The point is to look at these innovations and relentlessly interrogate them, to think about, do these innovations spark a light bulb moment in a project that you are working on, right? In a client you're working for? Different market, different customer segment, different context, but I can see that what they are doing has relevance to the future expectations of my customers. Okay? So, quick word of warning. We've got, I think, nearly 300 slides to go through in the next couple of hours, right? We've got loads of innovations, loads of trends. There are more notes in the bottom of the slides to all of the innovations, links to the microsites, etc. Right? Our designers hate us using unsexy PowerPoint, not glossy animated Keynote, but it's because we know that it makes it super easy for you guys to go back and use them. Right? So what we'll do, you'll get an email from us tomorrow morning with links to download all the decks, right? So when you go through today, fill your notebooks with notes, right? See if you can beat that 37 pages of notes record that we have, right? But also, if you miss anything, don't worry. Go think about what is the one slide that you want to cut out, hopefully more than one, but at least one, that you can cut out, email around to your team and say, there's something in this innovation that we can use. Because what I really want you to do, our bigger objective, right, as well as giving you these actionable light bulb moments, the bigger thing we want to leave you with when you head back to the office this afternoon is an entirely new way of seeing the world, right? A way of seeing the world that says, yeah, there's all this change happening. It's not slowing down, but we can navigate this. We can get a handle on this. We can process this, right? And so, just a quick note, we had a great time. We did this event last week in Amsterdam, and we spent a full day working through the workshop element of this afterwards. And, of course, we know that there's inspiration in this morning, right? And we hope there's lots of inspiration for you. But if you want to go further, right, and think about taking this new way of seeing the world back into your organization, right, we can, of course, help with that. But bigger than that, I just want to say, or not bigger than that, so smaller than that, just want to say, if you want to stay up to date, if we've given you this way of seeing the world, you go back to your office, right? What we really want you to do is evangelize this, right? Evangelize this way of seeing the world in your organization. Encourage your colleagues, encourage your clients to sign up, to think about how innovations are changing the world in which you operate. And we can help with that, right? I'm sure 90% of you already signed up to our daily newsletter. But if you're not, please sign up or send it round to your colleagues and say that this will help us navigate change. Where is all this content that I'm going to share with you, myself and David are going to share with you from? Right? It's all pulled, just to give you the context, it's all pulled from our premium platform. Right? We have a database of over 20,000 innovations, like the case studies that we're going to share with you, 100 plus trends. That's where we've pulled this content from. But the other question we get from people is, ultimately, where does this content come from? How do you guys build this? And just a quick note on that as well. So we are powered, as many of you will know, we are powered by a network of trend spotters. Right? We have over 1,000 people in our Slack community discussing the innovations that we're going to share with you here today. Right? And again, if you want to sign up to that, if you want to be part of that community, we would love to have you, because, as I said, our real mission is to turn you guys into trend watchers, right? And to have you join our movement, if you like. So, before I hand over to David to get into the trends, final thought on why you should track trends, why it's so important, right? Because if you won't take it from me, hopefully you will take it from this guy, because he's the world's richest man, well, at least he will be until he's had his divorce, right? Jeff Bezos, right? Because he famously says, Jeff Bezos famously says, you're either a day one company, right, full of vitality, full of life, with a bright future, or you're a day two company, right? You're dying. Whether you know it or not, you're dying, right? He said that is a stark reality. And he talks about how to be a day one company, right? And I love this quote. He says, there are many ways to anchor your business. You can be product focused, technology focused, business model focused, and more. But in my view, obsessive customer focus is by far the most protective of day one vitality. And he goes on to say, the beautiful thing, right, about their customers, they're beautifully dissatisfied. They report being happy, and even when business is great, right, until suddenly it's not. And we've all seen the stories of that, right? Kodak, Blockbuster, whatever it is, right? Business is great until suddenly it's not. So even when they don't yet know it, customers want something better. And it's your desire to invent that will create that better future for you. That's how to protect day one vitality. But may we humbly add, what Jeff doesn't give you, right, is the secret to how to do this. He talks about how important it is, but he doesn't give you the secret of how to invent better on their behalf. So we would argue, okay, that's what we can add to the table here today, right, is this relentless focus. Look at the innovations that we're going to share with you. Think about, with all these innovations, what is the light bulb moment that this sparks? Right? How can I bring the insight that I take from this innovation into my business, into my project, and then you can protect the day one vitality and be a company that Jeff Bezos would be proud of. Okay, so that's enough from me. Hopefully everyone's feeling like a trend watcher. And with that, I'd like to hand over to David for our first trend keynote of the day. David, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Henry. Hi, everyone. Okay, you just heard from Henry how trends are founded in basic human needs. And in this session, we're going to see that truth come into action. Because in this first session, I just want to share with you 5 trends that can empower you guys to create amazing experiences for your customers, your diners, your visitors, your guests in 2020 and beyond. And each of these trends we're going to look at is founded in a simple, powerful human need. Here are the basic human needs we're going to look at. Okay? For the first half of this session, we're going to look at convenience and delight. We're going to take a quick pause in the middle, give you guys a chance to discuss, and then we're going to take on this, self-improvement and status. Creating amazing experiences is ultimately about serving people. At the heart of any great experience, there's a basic human need that is being served. So we're going to look at how change is unlocking new ways to serve these basic human needs, and that means new ways for you guys to create amazing experiences. And there's going to be plenty of time along the way for you to think about what it means for you, how you can use it, how you can use it as fuel to innovate in 2020. Okay, so with all that said, let's get on to trend number 1. And here is a big, simple, powerful human need to get us started, and that is convenience. Convenience. All human beings want the tasks in their life to be as easy and as simple as possible. We all want what we want, and we want it right now. That's just an eternal truth about human nature. It's always been with us. It always will be with us. So where are we at when it comes to convenience in 2019? Well, you guys know, I don't have to tell you, that for the last 10 years or more, on-demand has revolutionized expectations around convenience. And we're now in the nth degree of expectations when it comes to the on-demand economy. So this is Uber Eats. They're trialing a new service in Toronto where they'll bring you your restaurant food to the gate because you must have that particular burger right before you board the plane. Okay? Similarly, at the Coachella Festival this year in California, there are Amazon Prime lockers on site. So festival goers could get their Prime same-day delivery of yoga mats or glitter or sunscreen, whatever it was. Back in the day, a music festival looked like this. This is a proper music festival, in my view. I don't know about you. Now a music festival looks like this. Okay? I'll leave you to ponder what that tells us about generational change, but as Henry said, what it really tells us is Jeff Bezos never loses. Now look, we're going to continue to see lots of brands creating now pretty established, pretty standard on-demand services. This is the US detergent brand Tide, launching an on-demand laundry service in the US, all over the US, with an app and delivery lockers and the full works. Okay? Here is an interesting question then. Where next? Where next for expectations of convenience and accessibility? And when it comes to experiences, we think a big part of the answer to that question is this first trend, atomized experiences. So we are seeing all kinds of experiences, all kinds of services just sliced and diced along dimensions of time and space, or broken up into their constituent parts and reaggregated so they can be served in new, more accessible, more convenient ways. And you can think of this atomization as the next evolution of on-demand. Oh, I've gone dark. Can I bring my screen back on demand?
Just do it.
That's the ultimate question. Go for it. I think my beautiful assistant is going to help with this. Bear with us. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. That didn't take us long. So look, here is the first example of this trend I want to show you. This is WeWork Go. This launched in Shanghai just back in January. So you guys, of course, all know how WeWork typically operates. You have to be a subscriber, you have to be a member to access WeWork properties. WeWork Go blows that apart, okay? Because now at these new destinations in Shanghai, you can arrive at the property, access an app via WeChat mini programs, scan a QR code at the door, walk in, sit down, start working, and you're paying for that desk or you're paying for that meeting room by the minute. So look, you can see the principle there, like boil your service or experience down, break it down to the minimum viable unit of time and make it available that way for the sake of convenience. That's what's going on here. They trialed this in Shanghai for 3 months. At the end of last year, they picked up 50,000 users, and they're now rolling it out to more destinations. Of course, part of what is going on here is WeWork Go wants to own the future of the third space. They're at war with Starbucks in China to be like, who's going to be the king of the third space in China? And actually, they've just opened a WeWork Go destination in Manhattan too. So you can walk in, grab a coffee, grab a pastry, just like Starbucks. But what you're paying for is that desk or that meeting room by the minute. Now, speaking of the future of the third space, this is Eden. It's written Threeden, but it's spoken Eden. Eden is a new kind of third space in Hudson Yards. And Hudson Yards is the massive $25 billion retail and real estate development in Manhattan. So Eden wants to be a new kind of third space in Hudson Yards that brings together various services and amenities under one roof on a pay-as-you-go basis. So there's a cafe, there are meeting rooms, there are nap pods, you can take a shower. They say they want it to be your kind of space between spaces. If you have 30 minutes between meetings, this is where they want you to go, because of course in Manhattan 30 minutes is a lifetime. Now again, if you think of the principle with the previous example as being atomization, think of the principle here as fusion. You know, break various services apart down into their constituent parts and reaggregate aspects of them back together to create something truly new. So let's take a bit of what it means to be a cafe in this case, a bit of what it means to be a gym, a bit of what it means to be a hotel or a business class lounge, and bring all that together under one roof, make those services available in a truly new, surprisingly convenient way. Atomization can mean delivery, and we're going to see lots of pretty standard, on-demand delivery services, like I said. I mean, Starbucks is working with Uber Eats right here in London to bring your Starbucks delivery to your front door. Check this out, though. This goes one step further. This is Stop and Shop. They're trialing a new service in Boston that's about using essentially driverless grocery stores. They're partnering with a tech company called RoboMart to make it happen. I just want to give you a quick feel for how it looks. So just check this out, and then we will discuss.
Grocery shopping today is a pain. Long trips to the store, waiting in line, paying extra for delivery. We've created a better way. Introducing RoboMart, the world's first driverless grocery store. RoboMart is not a delivery vehicle, it's an autonomous store on wheels. No more trips to the store. No more waiting in line. No more relying on someone else picking your groceries for you. Available, affordable, and quick. Simply tap to call a RoboMart. Within minutes, it'll arrive at your doorstep. As easy as Amazon, as quick as Uber. Just grab what you need and go. And you automatically get checked out. RoboMart is not just a concept. It's here today and will be rolling out soon. RoboMart, the world's most accessible grocery store.
Okay, so you can see how it works there. The person they've chosen seems to live in a car park. That's where she wants her groceries delivered to. But you can see how it works. Okay, instead of standard grocery delivery where, someone else is going to pick your bananas or whatever and your grapes, and you have to be at the front door at a particular time to take delivery of that, they've atomized the whole store or a part of the store, and they're going to bring the store to your front door. You can choose your fruit and vegetables. It all happens on your terms. Okay, now look, just to give you an indication of how far expectations of atomization can go, I just wanted to quickly show you this one. I think you will enjoy it. I don't spend too much time on it because I think you can see what's going on here by the picture. This is called the Testomatic. It was created by Testicular Cancer New Zealand, and they want to put these around shopping malls and office spaces in New Zealand. It's for a particular kind of health check, and you can see what's going on. So you step inside, you draw this curtain. There's a doctor hiding in there. He or she says they're a doctor anyway, and they've got their hands sticking through that hole, and this is supposed to take the awkwardness and embarrassment out of this kind of health check, which is a very important health check. Now, I think that is debatable. Depends what you call awkward and embarrassing, right? And of course, this is just a stunt, and it's supposed to raise awareness, and it's making us chuckle, and that's great. But check this out. This is Ping An Good Doctor. Okay, I think it's a bit of a language fail because it is called Ping An Good Doctor, and they're a healthcare platform in China, and they do online, virtual video conferencing consultations with doctors. But they've just launched in April these are their 1-minute health clinics, and you step inside and you get an AI consultation. So all the consultations they've done online with real doctors have generated, they say, 400 million data points, health data points. They've used that to fuel an AI So when you step inside this booth, an AI will consult with you. If necessary, you will then be referred on to a real doctor. You'll have a video conference with a real doctor who can make a proper diagnosis, give you a prescription. The 100 most commonly prescribed medicines are stored in the booth itself, so you can just get it straight away. If not, they'll deliver it to you. So yeah, you know, the previous example was funny, but atomization of health experiences is real. Okay, now look, this brings us to our first light bulb moment. And I mean, the first thing to say is, and this goes for all the examples you're going to see today, I'm not showing you these examples to just say, go and do that, okay? I don't think you're going to put bananas in a driverless vehicle. I don't think you're going to make a booth that's going to give people an AI consultation. I'm showing them to you because it's about the expectations they are fueling. Like when you can access your co-working space by the minute, when the grocery store does come to you, when you can just walk into a booth off the street and get an AI consultation, a proper consultation with a doctor, what do people start to expect from you when it comes to accessibility, when it comes to convenience? So I'd love to just pause for 30 seconds for you guys to just reflect on that, take a few notes. And yeah, you can think about these dimensions. You know, when you come to apply this trend, is it going to be about time and space? Do you want to boil your experience down to the minimum viable unit of time or reimagine how it works with space? Is it going to be about aggregation like Eden did, bringing various services together under one roof in a new way? Can you do this by thinking about new business models? I mean, underpinning the WeWork example in the end is a new business model. Instead of subscription, pay as you go. So just take 30 seconds to reflect on what atomization means for you, how you can apply it in 2020, and we will move on to trend number 2 in a second. Okay, let's move on to trend number 2. Trend number 2 starts in a different kind of place, not in a basic human need, but in a recent change in the world. And that change is automation. So automation technologies are maturing, robots, consumers are seeing these technologies out in the world, they're seeing them online a lot. They're starting to expect these technologies to make an impact on their own lives. And for the next couple of trends, the next 2 trends, I just want to look at one particular question, and that is, look, yes, automation is here, but what does it mean? More specifically, what does it mean for you guys? How can you deploy it to help create amazing experiences in 2020 and beyond? And a big part, essentially the key answer that I want to give you to that question is, look, there are 2 big directions you can take when it comes to deploying automation to create amazing experiences. 2 big, somewhat opposing directions you can take when it comes to this question. For the first direction, I want to stick with the basic human need that we've already been talking about, convenience. And look, we don't have to spend super long on this one because this is the much more expected, much more standard of the 2 directions. When we think and when consumers think about automation technologies, they are typically thinking about experiences or services that are automated in order to make their lives, you know, make that particular task easier, faster, you know, more efficient, more convenient. They have been primed, no pun intended, by, you know, innovations like this, the Amazon Go staffless stores, you know, walk in the store, pick up the stuff, grab it, just walk out, everything's automated. Or like this is Bingo Box, the automated convenience and grocery stores in China. There's 500 of them already around the country. They're opening another 1,000 this year. So when consumers think about automation, they think convenience, you know, efficiency, speed. And with this second trend, I just want to say, of course, you know, automated X, I just want to say, of course, consumers in 2020 and beyond will continue to seek out new, ever greater heights of automated speed, convenience, and all of that. And just a couple of quick examples to show you where expectations are heading. This is Hertz. They're using automation to speed up the car rental process. So It's all about facial recognition, essentially. You register once with a facial recognition service called Clear, and then when you come to rent your car, you don't have to go to the desk and do all the paperwork stuff and the signature and all of that. You can just use your phone to unlock a car, drive through their fast lane, what they call their fast lane, stop, and you'll be clocked by this facial recognition camera. You'll be identified, and off you go. Okay, so just they say it will get you on the road in 30 seconds, a much faster process than the standard car rental process. Now, I'm going to show you a consumer talking about automation and travel. I think this consumer would love this innovation. Henry talked about how we don't directly talk to consumers ourselves. We've been doing a tiny bit of work with a company called Battery. Battery's about gaining insights from consumers via their smartphones, via their phones out in the field. And we've just been having some fun asking some consumers to see their lives and see the world around them through the lens of some of our trends. And this particular video just kind of bubbled to the surface when I was thinking about this trend. This is a business traveler. He's taken time out of his busy schedule to record this video. It looks like up against a shower curtain, so prepare yourself for that. But he's talking about his expectations of business travel and air travel in particular and automation. So just check this out quickly.
One of the worst parts of flying by far is the whole check-in process and the security lines. Like, you know, I feel like there would be so many opportunities to make that whole process a lot easier. You know, they could have some kind of automated process, whether it be robots or, I'm not sure, some other form of IDing you as soon as you get out of your cab. You can put your bags straight on some kind of conveyor belt or processing machine, which takes your bag straight to the plane. And for that matter, you could even put your carry-on on there as well, because carry-on is one of the worst parts of flying as well, because everyone just wants to have a carry-on bag, and it takes about 3 hours to board every flight these days. And if all of those bags could just go straight on the plane and you wouldn't have to worry about it, that would make it so much easier. You know, they have facial recognition, they have retina scans, they have all sorts of technology that they could ID you with. And for that matter, your phone could just sense that you're near the airport and check you in automatically. And it would make...
Okay, so we've all been there. He's had a bad flight and he's frustrated about it, but you can see how expectations of automation and convenience are just accelerating upwards. You know, they have these technologies, why can't they put them to use, okay? And that's essentially everything we're here to say to you. People are seeing innovations, they're seeing change out there that's changing their expectations of you, of the experiences and the services that are being provided to them. He would also love this innovation, clearly. This is just launched at Lyon Airport. It's essentially an automated parking concierge. So when you drive to the airport, you take your car to one of a few designated places, and a robot's going to do the rest for you. It basically slides a big metal arm under your car and drags it to a parking spot. And it's clever, though, because it can store your return flight details. So when you get back, it will automatically take your car back to the designated spot, ready for you to pick up, and there's not that whole "where did I leave my car" scenario. Okay, so that's the first of the two directions. What's the other big direction you can take? Okay, if you don't want to go down the automation for convenience route, there's another big direction you can take when it comes to deploying automation to create amazing new experiences. And this direction starts in a quite different basic human need, and that is delight. You can deploy automation to create experiences that are delightful. And the way you can do that is you can use automation to create experiences that are a spectacle, that are magical in their own right. I'm talking about the type of experiences, this is the difference between the type of experience that you just want over as quickly as possible, like this is, you know, just make it efficient, make it fast, let me get it over with. And this, the type of experience that is magical, that is a spectacle, that is theatrical, the type of experience I actively want to give my time to, the type of experience people will travel to see. And that is a counterintuitive direction. Because typically when consumers think about automation, you know, at best they're thinking about convenience. At worst, they're thinking these robots are here to take people's jobs. They're leading us to a dystopian future. There's a lot of apprehension, you know, much of it legitimate, about these technologies. But you are, as experienced creators, at a window right now where you can puncture that apprehension, okay? Because actually consumers have seen enough of these technologies. They've seen enough of these robots in the world, online, to know that they can be playful too, they can be magical, they can be fun. Okay, so you have a window where there's this great mix of curiosity, of novelty, because they've seen a bit of these technologies but not too much, and also of your ability to deploy these technologies. That means you can use these robots, you can use automation to create experiences that are magical, that are a spectacle, that are theatrical. And that brings me to the third trend, okay? The other big direction you can take, which is this, automation theatre. And just as I've said, it's about saying, use automation technologies, use robots to create experiences that are magical, that are a piece of theatre, that are a spectacle that people want to give time to, that they'll travel to see. And I just want to show you some examples of how we see this trend playing out. Here is a great first example. This is Ministry of Supply. Nice, simple example to get us started. There are a clothes retailer in the US. They've worked with MIT to create a new in-store service where you pick a jumper off, you pick a sweater off the rack, your measurements are taken, and then you can watch a robot shrink this sweater in front of your eyes to fit you perfectly. I just want to give you a slightly clearer view of how it looks. This is how it looks, okay? The way it works is they've developed this special fabric that shrinks in response to the application of heat. So your measurements are taken, the sweater's put on this mannequin, and then this robot's going to apply heat to shrink the sweater to fit you perfectly. Now look, the first thing, of course, is it's great to get a sweater that fits perfectly. This is about personalization. We all want the perfect fitting sweater, but it's clear there's a bit more to it than that. This is also a moment of theatre. It's a spectacle. They want to deploy these in many of their stores in the US, and it's something people love to watch. Okay, it's just a little moment of retail theatre in their day, the type of activity that's fun, that's great to watch. Now look, I am not saying robots can do everything humans can do. I'm not saying the future of great experiences is all about robots, right? We're going to talk a lot more about that in just a second. Often the best retail theatre examples will take a mixture of automation and a human touch or human values. This is a great example of that, of what I'm talking about. This is Dawnverse. This is a cafe in Tokyo. It's staffed entirely by these waiters. Okay? So you have the automation theatre, you have the magic of seeing these waiters move around the store, bringing you your coffee, taking your order, all of that. You know, it's pretty fun to watch. You can see it online. It's great. But all that comes with a twist, because these robots are actually controlled by people with disabilities, often quite profound disabilities, who have struggled to find work elsewhere. Okay, so you can come to this cafe, and that's a deep part of this cafe's DNA. You can come to this cafe, enjoy the magic, enjoy the automation theatre of watching these robots, and also know that you're engaged with a business, with a brand that's doing some good and that has human values at its core. And often the best automation technology, automation theatre, examples will do those two things. Okay, let's kick this on a step. This is Happy Lemon. They're a bubble tea chain. They're international. They recently launched a service in Shanghai that just perfectly encapsulates really what I mean by automation theatre. And again, I want to show you how it looks and feels. So check this out, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, look, so this is in Shanghai. There's 1,000 Happy Lemon destinations all around the world. Right now, watching that is pretty magical. This robot takes your order, mixes your drink, delivers it to you. Here's the thing, the magic will wear off. It's not going to always be magical forever to watch those robots doing their work. When the novelty wears off, the spectacle, the theatre is essentially gone. But you have got to think that it's Happy Lemon's plan to roll that automated service out across most, I guess all of their 1,000 destinations, because it's just a more efficient, faster way for them to work. So what is going on there? Let's just take a step back from that example and think about some of the ideas at the heart of this trend. And look, essentially, automation for convenience is the dominant trend here of these two directions. Automation for convenience is one of the epic megatrends reshaping the 21st century, and there is no getting around that truth. So you need, every brand, every business pretty much, needs a strategy when it comes to automation for convenience. Okay, when it comes to automation for convenience, speed, and efficiency, but you face problems. I mean, number one is just what does it look like for you? How do you automate what you do, if you should at all? Which aspects of it? How is that going to work? Then you face resistance, resistance from your staff, resistance from your customers who are anxious about something new and what does it mean and all of that. Here is the thing. An automation theatre initiative, an automation theatre experiment can be your first step along that road of developing a long-term strategy for this epic trend that is automation for convenience. Run an experiment, put the robots front and center, celebrate them, make it fun, make it a spectacle for your consumers, encourage them to have some fun with it. That can be your first step along this road towards a long-term strategy. And look, again, I'm not saying the future of great experiences and what you need to do is just automate away all your staff and that's the golden ticket, like quite the opposite. And we're going to talk much more about that in a sec again. But before we do, just check out this second example along these lines that, again, perfectly encapsulates what I'm talking about. This is the Fly Zoo Hotel. It's by Alibaba. They've brought together in a destination in Guangzhou just an ecosystem of different automated technologies. And right now, the pitch to guests is just pure automation theatre. It's come and stay in the magical hotel of the future. This is what it looks like.
正在关闭窗帘。天猫精灵，灯光调到浪漫模式。灯光已经调节为浪漫模式。
Okay, so yeah, one destination. Again, the pitch is pure automation theatre. Come and stay in the magical hotel of the future. But the magic will wear off. It's not always going to be magical to see these robots bringing you your towels and all that stuff, okay? So what is going on here? Because Alibaba's plan is to partner with lots of different hotel providers to roll these kinds of automated hotels out throughout the world, like en masse. What is going on is just an attempt to have a meaningful, coherent strategy when it comes to these two big basic human needs we're talking about, convenience and delight, or magic. And that strategy is this. Look, let's automate what can be automated. Let's let the robots do what they do best, which is speed, efficiency, getting stuff done. And then that liberates our people to do what people do best, which is deliver magic, human feelings, creativity, a human touch, true magic, true theatre in the long term. That is a coherent strategy, really the only coherent strategy, I would contend, when it comes to these two big basic human needs. Okay, let's automate what can be automated. That's not about getting rid of our staff. That's about liberating our people, freeing our staff to deliver in the long term magic, theatre, a human touch. Because the robots won't be magical forever, but people, talking to people, human creativity, human magic never wears off. Okay, so that is, I would contend, the meaningful, sensible, long-term strategy when it comes to these two big directions. Now look, there is loads to think about there. So I would love here to just pause for a tiny bit longer, just 2-3 minutes, to give you guys a chance to reflect on this. And when I say go, to just turn to your neighbor, turn to the people around you. Henry got you to know each other already. And just think about these two big directions and which of them is right for you. In 2020 for you, is it going to be about automated X? Is it going to be about automation for speed and convenience? Is it going to be about automation theater? Automation for magic and delight. It might be different at different moments in your process, in different moments at customer touch points. And of course, think about that underlying thought. You need in the end, almost all of you will need in the end some kind of long-term strategy for automation for convenience. Can an automation theater experiment be the first step along that way? Okay? That allows you to automate what can be automated and free your people to be magical and creative and human and all of that, rather than kind of human check-in desk robots, all right, or whatever they are now. Okay, so over to you guys for like 2 minutes. When you've only got 60 seconds left, you'll see a big countdown, and then I might call on one or two of you. It would be amazing if you wanted to just share what you've been talking about. But over to you guys, turn to your neighbor, have a chat about this trend for a couple of minutes. Over to you.
Channel to the microphone, so your microphone won't work when the music's on.
Okay.
So you'll have to like.
That's all right. I'll just bellow. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, back to me. Back to me. Thank you. I hear some very, very interesting conversations going on. So I wonder, it would be amazing if anyone just wants to put their hand up super quickly and just share where they're from, what they think of these two trends, where you think you stand in relation to automation, if you hate it, if you've struggled with it, do you think automation theatre is for you? Anyone? I have to try and see over the lights if any hands are up. Anyone would like to share? Yes, there's someone right here. Thank you.
We were just talking about when automation becomes kind of the norm and it's sort of the expected thing to happen. What happens to the human touch and human customer service in that instance? And does that then become the premium and it kind of reverses? So the chap next to me was saying like, kind of with like horses and cars are now the norm, but if you want to kind of have a experience out horse riding, that's kind of a premium thing that you might do on a holiday or something that seems special. And it's interesting to think that the human thing, the flawed thing, the unique, surprising thing might become the premium, expensive thing when it's now the norm and things might reverse.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's such a great point and such an important point and a massive part of where these two trends head eventually. You know, right now it seems amazing and like, oh wow, this robot made my coffee for me, like how incredible. You know, once that magic wears off, will we then be in a place where it's like, yes, a human being made this coffee for me. And they even got my order wrong. Look, I got the wrong coffee. Super premium experience. This is a terrible coffee because I'm special. A human made it for me. Brilliant point, thank you. Anyone else? If not, I will dash onwards. Anyone else? No, okay. Let's move on. Let's move on to trend number 4, which starts in a very different place with a very different basic human need, and that is self-improvement. Self-improvement, just the desire to improve, to enhance, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That is a deep part of human nature. Now, where are we at when it comes to self-improvement in 2019? Well, you guys know, I don't have to tell you, that for the last 30 years or more, wellness, the wellness industry has been a massive part of the story of self-improvement. And you may well have heard me say before, back in the day, 30 years ago, if you went jogging, that was seen as a super niche, almost perverse activity. Why are you running, or why are you spending your energy running around the park? Now it's crazy if you don't exercise, if you don't go to the gym, if you don't drink the protein shake afterwards, if you don't know 10,000 yoga positions. Okay, time and again, when it comes to wellness, we see this story. Elite becomes mainstream. When it comes to practices, processes, values, and wellness, elite becomes mainstream again and again and again. When it comes to equipment, like you guys have all seen this is the Peloton. Once upon a time, you were lucky if you had a freestanding sort of exercise bike in your house. Now, you should have this in your house. This is a connected exercise bike. It's live streaming classes to you from New York with some of the world's best trainers, and there's metrics. You can compete against your peers. All of this kind of stuff gave rise to what I think was one of the most magical Twitter threads of 2019. Please check it out at your discretion. Check it out in the coffee break. But look, we're in an environment of endless metrics. Everyone's measuring themselves. Everyone's competing. There's all these technologies that allow us to fuel our self-improvement. There's all these algorithms. This is an app that uses an algorithm employed by NASA astronauts to help ordinary mortals with their jet lag and their sleep schedule. That's the environment we are in. I just want to play you another quick video now of a consumer out in the field talking about her mindset. And really what I want you to take from this is just the development of this engineering mindset when it comes to human health and wellness, a kind of mindset that sees my wellness, sees human wellness as a kind of engineering problem to be solved. And you can see glimpses of that in this clip, so check it out.
My name is Matali, and I'm currently outside of my yoga studio. I find that the exercises that I do more than just yoga. I do Pilates and I run as well, and I box. I try to keep myself active in a bunch of different settings, and each of them challenges me in a different way, which I think for my mental health and physical emotional well-being is so important for productivity and continuing to challenge and push myself in different directions. Working through meditation, which I think is really important to calm my mind. I get a little bit, I can overthink and overanalyze, and so it keeps me centered first thing in the morning as part of my daily routine. And that's why I think yoga is amazing first thing in the morning. And I do think that it is really interesting for brands to care about my wellness and well-being, and I only tend to have an affinity for brands that absolutely try cannabis-based products. I think like CBD scrubs have been something that have been really interesting for me as just another way to calm, and it's harmless, as well as, you know, CBD drinks. I think it's something that keeps me centered and is something I partake in, not every day, but, you know, once in a while it feels kind of nice.
Okay, now what you don't see is I cut that down from like 4 hours of talking about her wellness. But we did ask her to, so we shouldn't be mean. But you can see that engineering mindset at work. You know, she's thinking about her health, she's thinking about her cognitive health, she's thinking about mindfulness, she's thinking about use of new cannabis-based products in the US to help her mindfulness and her mental state. And that brings me to this trend, wellness engineers. And it's just all about saying in 2020 and beyond, consumers will embrace new kinds of experiences that allow them to engineer some wellness into their lives, right? Serve that deep human need for self-improvement in this new way. And I want to show you some examples of that. Here's a very simple one to get started. This is Uber partnering with Calm. You guys all know Calm. It's one of the world's biggest mindfulness meditation apps. It has like over 1 million users. Uber partnered with Calm recently to make mindfulness meditation sessions available in certain rides. So you've got a pair of noise-canceling headphones. You could choose a session length that matches your journey, you know, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. And you just do some meditation, you do some mindfulness in your taxi. You can see just a simple example of this engineering mindset. Let me use this tiny window of time, this 5 minutes, this 15 minutes, to just engineer some mental wellness into my life today. It's just a great, simple example of what I'm talking about when I talk about this engineering mindset. Okay, kicking it on a step, we looked at how music festivals are changing earlier. This is another music festival. This is the Pharos Festival that happened recently in New Zealand. They essentially built this music festival all around the idea, I would say, of wellness engineering. They built it around a kind of wellness, sensory wellness center, they called it. And right at the heart of the center was this. They called it the Red Room. When you went inside, it looked like this. You essentially lay down on big, very comfortable cushions. You were bathed in a soothing red light, and you were played music and cosmic humming at certain resonances that are designed to induce a kind of mindful, calm state. So once upon a time, again, going to a festival was about getting out of your mind. This is all about getting into your mind. You come to this music festival to be mindful, to get back in touch with yourself. And that, again, is a perfect example of what I'm talking about when I talk about these new wellness engineers and the quest they are on. Okay, again, kicking it on a step, this is the Beverly Hilton. This is the Hilton that hosts the Golden Globes. They recently launched what they call a human upgrade center in the hotel. So they partnered with, yeah, it sounds foreboding, doesn't it? But they partnered with the Bulletproof organization. And you may remember them from Bulletproof Coffee, like a few years back, that special coffee that gives you a mental kick in the morning. So the Bulletproof organization designed this for them. And it's just full of technologies that are supposed to take your performance to a place way beyond you would be in an ordinary gym. So there's like cryotherapy, there's EEG meditation, there's infrared light for muscle recovery, all these different technologies designed to let you perform at your optimum level when you're in this space. And look, of course, at the moment, this is about the celebrities that go to the Golden Globes and very affluent people who visit this hotel. But time and again, as I've said, we see these standards go from elite to mainstream. Like what was once elite, what was once niche, becomes mainstream time and again when it comes to wellness behaviors. Just as further evidence of that, I want you to look at this, if you can. This is Sushi Singularity. It's a restaurant concept by a company called Open Table. They're going to launch it in Tokyo next year in 2020. Yeah, so it's a sushi restaurant with a difference. If you want to book at this sushi restaurant, you have to book at least 2 weeks in advance, and you have to send them some stuff. And what you have to send them is a sample of your saliva and your urine and a stool sample. And they will then analyze those and 3D print sushi for you that's nutritionally optimized to be perfect for you. It's not true sushi either, by the way, if you were getting your hopes up. That's the other twist about this restaurant. It's 3D printed sushi that's made out of certain base like proteins and vitamins and minerals and all of that. Now look, if I said to you, do you want to come to Sushi Singularity with me in 2 weeks? You might be like, maybe not. Okay, I'm a bit busy tonight, whatever. Again, I'm not, excuse me, showing you this example to say you have to like it, I'm not showing it to you to say you should do it, you should go there, you should visit it, right? It's pretty weird. Take a step back from your understandable, immediate sort of visceral response to that idea. It's about the underlying expectations. Like if some consumers, if a fringe of consumers are willing to go to those lengths to engineer some wellness into their dining experience, what do mainstream consumers or the rest, more moderate consumers, start to expect from everyone else, start to expect from you, okay? And really my point is just about this fringe to mainstream phenomenon that you see with wellness time and time again. So you can think broadly about the wellness, values, processes, techniques, and so on that you want to employ when you're trying to serve wellness engineers. And just remember that very often today's fringe, today's niche is tomorrow's mainstream. You see that reflected in this next example too. I'm just going to play you the video. Check it out, see what you think, and then we will talk about it. So just watch this.
This is my favorite food. I love the texture. Don't be afraid of making a mess.
Okay, I've moved on before something terrible happens. Oh, I've skipped a bit. I've moved on before something terrible happens. Now look, you might be sitting there watching that thinking, that is fucking weird. Yes, I would agree. It's deeply uncomfortable to watch. Again, I'm not saying you have to like it. I'm not saying you have to want to, do that yourself. It is founded, though, on a wellness principle that's known as ASMR, Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. And that is a wellness phenomenon where in response to certain auditory stimuli, often whispering, some people report feelings of like calm and relaxation and mindfulness. And these people, the Moxie Hotel, they're a hotel that's known for like pushing boundaries. They've done experiments where they blindfolded consumers and all this kind of stuff. They recently made a series of ASMR videos to relax their guests. Okay, so all I want you to think about is you can think broadly when it comes to wellness behaviors, because ASMR, as weird as that video was, is huge online. YouTube is replete with videos with tens of millions of hits, of views that are all based in ASMR. So you can think broadly again about the wellness behaviors, the values, the processes that you want to employ when it comes to serving wellness engineers. And it's not about whether you like them, it's not about whether you want to do it, whether it particularly appeals to you. Who does it appeal to? And which of your different customer bases are using different kinds of wellness processes and values and mindsets and so on. So again, let's just pause super quickly, like 30 seconds to reflect on this trend, take some notes. How can you serve wellness engineers in 2020 and beyond? Think about fringe to mainstream. Think about partnerships. Can you partner with someone like Uber did to bring a new kind of wellness experience into your offering? Think about new contexts. Like, could you be a platform for a new kind of wellness experience, like the Pharos Festival? We don't typically think of music festivals and wellness going together, but now they do. Or are you a wellness experience looking for a new kind of platform, looking for a new kind of context to go into? So take 30 seconds, reflect, take some notes, and we'll move on to the final trend in just a second. Okay, cool. Okay, let's move on to the final trend, trend number 5. I have saved a big, powerful, basic human need for last. That is status. All the way through this presentation, we've talked about basic human needs. In affluent societies like ours, we're very lucky. Our most basic human needs, things like food, shelter, so on, they are met. We're extremely fortunate. In that kind of environment, another basic human need rises to the surface often, and that is status, the desire to be seen as special, the desire to be marked out amongst your peers, to live a meaningful life, okay? That is the driver. The search for status is the driver of so much behavior in consumer societies, and you instinctively know that yourselves. So what is the journey we've been on when it comes to status? Well, it's the reason we're all here, like the experience economy. We have been on an epic status shift across the last 3 decades or more, away from consumer status as objects, the supercar, the designer handbag, all of that kind of stuff, towards status as experiences, rare, amazing, incredible experiences that are meaningful to me, that mark me out as special, that I want to share with my friends, that I want to boast about to my friends. Of course, that shift has been massively amplified by online, which has turned experiences into a very shareable status currency that you can broadcast to the whole world. And Instagram is just a scrollable feed of the human impulse towards status. So look, that's where we're at now. Where next? One of the big answers to that question is this: virtual worlds. People are having experiences now in virtual worlds, and they can be meaningful, status-worthy experiences. And look, there's nothing actually super new about that. There's nothing new about online shared video games. There's nothing new about Magic Leap and augmented reality or virtual reality. What is truly new, though, what is truly happening now is the scale, the number of people inhabiting these virtual worlds. This is Fortnite. If you have teenage children, I don't need to introduce it to you. There are 3-4 million people playing Fortnite as we speak. That is a small nation's worth of people inhabiting this virtual world as we speak, having experiences in it that are deeply meaningful to them. There are billions of people across the world having experiences in augmented reality all the time, Facebook's augmented reality platform on Instagram, Snapchat, all of that stuff, okay? So the scale here is huge. And what that has done, or what it is doing, is just fueling this shift where people now are having experiences in virtual worlds, in online shared video games, in virtual reality, in augmented reality, that are meaningful to them. These experiences are starting to be meaningful and status-worthy to people in the way that experiences out there in the real world, in the status economy, have always been, and particularly have been for decades. Okay? And that brings me to this final trend, the virtual experience economy. And just as I've said, it's about saying in 2020 and beyond, consumers are going to seek out, they're going to embrace status-worthy, meaningful experiences in virtual worlds too. This is an epic shift, an epic new direction or evolution of everything we're here to talk about today, of the entire experience economy, of the entire future of experiences. So it's such a powerful one to put on your radar and for you guys to reflect upon. Here is an easy, simple example of this trend to get started. Art and culture, heritage experiences have always been status-worthy. It's always been meaningful and status-worthy to go to a gallery or an exhibition, to enrich yourself culturally, to see new things, to learn new things. It's the type of thing you tell your friends you've done, you put it on Facebook, whatever it is, okay? Very simply, some of those experiences now will play out in virtual worlds. So this museum in the Netherlands, creating an AR layer to this Rembrandt painting so you can step inside the painting, walk around and move around the painting in augmented reality. Okay, and if you can see that, that is a meaningful experience for the people who are undergoing it, and also that it's a virtual experience, this is not a physical reality, this is an experience that's playing out in a virtual world, then you've taken that leap to accepting that experiences in virtual worlds can be meaningful, can be status-worthy too. This is Minecraft. Yeah, again, you guys all know Minecraft. It has 90 million monthly active players. Minecraft is about to launch a new augmented reality kind of platform version of the game, essentially. So we all remember Pokemon Go from years back. We're going to see, I think, millions of people walking around having Minecraft experiences in the world around us with, augmented reality as a layer. And again, you guys know Minecraft, these experiences inside the Minecraft world are deeply meaningful to these people. It's all about building. It's about creativity. It's like, look what I've built, look what I've done, look what I've achieved. It's a part of myself I've expressed in this game. We are going to see millions of people doing that in augmented reality too now. Sticking with shared video games for just a second, we're going to see the evolution of virtual status symbols. This is a guy who took time out of his life and days of time inside the game just to get his character inside the video game Red Dead Redemption to grow a beard, right? It was deeply important to him. He wanted his character to have a beard, which seems funny, seems super weird, until you remember that out there in the real world, hipster beards are a massive status symbol, right? And we don't think that's particularly odd anymore. So we are going to see the evolution of virtual status symbols, just as we see status symbols out there in the physical world too. Okay, you can think about live shared experiences when you think about, oh, Henry, I might need your help again, but I can keep talking. Live shared experiences, no, we're back. When you think about the virtual experience economy, this is Oculus Venues. This is the live experience, the live concert platform that plays on Oculus Rift. Oculus Rift is the virtual reality platform that Facebook acquired a couple of years back. So using Oculus Venues, you can attend live concerts and live experiences inside virtual reality. The next one coming up is in June. It's this band, Imagine Dragons. So you put on your virtual reality headset, you find yourself in a stadium looking out to a stage, watching this band playing live. It's a real live concert, they're really playing, there's a real live audience there, but you are attending inside virtual reality and you're watching them inside VR. It's social, so you can turn to the side and see other people also watching this concert inside virtual reality. They're represented as an avatar. You can talk to them, oh, I'm in London, you're in New Zealand, this is great. We will see more and more of this, people attending live concerts, live experiences inside virtual reality. And look, these kinds of experiences have always been meaningful to people. They've always been the types of experiences people remember for a lifetime, they talk about, they want to tell their friends about. We've had a generation, that was all about, I went to Woodstock. I don't know, there's a generation that's like, I was at the first Coldplay concert, whatever it is. We're going to see this generation now. I attended these experiences inside virtual reality. I was there when it happened. There was even WrestleMania broadcast live inside Oculus Venues just a couple of months ago. Look, I touched on Fortnite right at the beginning. This is such a powerful, kind of clear example of this trend. What did we see in Fortnite a few months back? 10 million people attend a live concert given by a DJ Marshmello, inside Fortnite. Again, just the most amazing expression of the desire to be at a meaningful kind of cultural event inside virtual reality. This is what it looked like.
I want everybody to squad up right now. Find your squad and let me see your favorite emotes. Let me see what you got. Let's go. No, that means I'll have to leave. No, that means I'll have to leave. Lately, I've been thinking, I want you to be happier. I want you to be happier. So I'll go, I will go.
Okay, so they trailed that, for like 2 weeks in advance. On the appointed morning, it was a Saturday morning, like 10 million people joined the game to experience that concert. Again, like I said, these experiences have always been meaningful to people. Now there's a generation of people, in this case, millions of them can say, I was there, I experienced that. And actually, Fortnite have just launched a new feature that allows people inside the Fortnite world to watch other Fortnite players competing in the Fortnite World Championship for an annual prize pot of $100. $300 million, right? So what more clear signal could there be that the virtual experience economy is becoming real, is scaling up massively, and that these experiences happening in virtual worlds are meaningful and status-worthy to people? So look, I'd love you to reflect on this trend. We don't have to stop for it because we're going to go into a coffee break now. How could you create these kinds of meaningful, status-worthy virtual experiences in 2020 and beyond? You can think about platforms and partnerships. You can think about art and culture, heritage experiences. You can think about live events. So take that with you into the coffee break. So look, 4 basic human needs became 5 trends. I hope I've given you some powerful fuel to take back with you, to innovate, to create amazing experiences. And when you get out of this room, and of course Henry's going to have a lot more to say about all of this after the break. But for now, let's go into a coffee break. We're not going to make you bungee jump like this guy. Actually, I'm saying coffee, I think this is tea. We're not going to make you do that, but we are going to break for coffee, and we'll be back here at 10:45. So 10:45 is when you should be back. But it's been super fun. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome back. Hope everyone's had their cup of coffee and a skewer of melon. So David spoke a lot this morning about robots, about automation, about esports, and you might be feeling a little bit kind of, depressed, dystopian view of the future of experiences. So like any good managing director, I thought I would take the inspirational, meaningful, purpose-driven keynote to close the session, looking at the future of experiences in a more positive, more meaningful way. So thank you, David, for teeing me up to end on this rousing note. So David opened his session by looking at music festivals, right? And music festivals, we mentioned it a couple of times, because music festivals, if you think about it, are almost the kind of pinnacle of the experience economy, right? We can cut loose from our daily life to have this amazing, this joyous, this communal, this very visceral physical experience. But of course, we know now increasingly that, yes, they're great, on the one hand, music festivals, but there is the morning after. Right? And it was announced just at the end of February that Glastonbury this year is going to ban the sale of single-use plastic bottles at the Glastonbury Festival. Right? So we're increasingly aware that, for all of the great that these experiences bring, there is perhaps this dark underbelly to them. Right? Ecologically. Also, on a personal level, right, David spoke about wellness. What is the hot new trend on the New York bar scene? Right? The rise of bars that don't serve alcohol. So this is the founder of Listen, which is a alcohol-free bar, which is currently crowdfunding as we speak, after a successful pop-up, just broken through its crowdfunding target. A bar where you go, and shock horror, I know, we're British, we find this deeply, deeply strange, right, that anyone would go to a bar and drink, just mocktails, right? But because people are increasingly aware of the tension between the indulgence of the experience economy and the negative, quite literal hangovers to them. Right? And it doesn't matter where you look, right? Look around the world, you keep on seeing signal after signal, the kind of dark side of the experience economy. This is a street in Paris, you can't see from a photo, really beautiful, brightly coloured street with all these beautiful painted houses. That is now overrun by people taking photos for Instagram. So the residents of this street petitioning to close the street on the weekends so that people don't come and clog up their street taking their glorified selfies. And we see this, as I said, just over and over again. Now, the typical kind of trope to fall back on here is let's blame millennials, right? Because we blame millennials for everything, right? If you're YouPorn, you blame esports for killing porn, right? Because millennials are watching too much esports on Twitch, right? So they're now no longer watching porn. Like, you just pick an industry whenever a business does badly, right? Whenever they have bad news to break, what do? Their PR agency goes, it's millennials, right? Let's blame millennials. So we can all laugh at that, but let's take a step back, right? Again, there are kind of obviously serious issues to, the dark side of the experience economy that we're talking about, right? And there are, as we say, real serious issues where you can't all be traveling to Paris to post selfies on Instagram, right? Because we're increasingly aware of the negative impact of that. right? And as I say, just pick a news story. Doesn't matter where you've come from, doesn't matter which client you're working with, right? Again and again, you just scan the news, you will see these stories hit you now every day, right? We were in Amsterdam last week, on my way to Amsterdam, I saw this, like Amsterdam, spent the last 30 years trying to attract tourists, right? Now they have too many tourists and they're now trying to steer them away to other second-tier cities, right? The experience economy, doesn't matter where you look, has, yes, a good side, an amazing side, it's what we want as consumers, but it also has a dark side, right? So what I want to do in this second session is to look at kind of 5 basic human needs. Again, we're hammering this methodology down your throat, right? Look at 5 basic human needs and wants, right? That can, yes, will always be with consumers, but these basic human needs and wants are suffering kind of severe issues, right? Severe challenges in today's environment, right? And we're going to look at the opportunities for you to go back and think about how you can turn these challenges into opportunities, right? Help people cater to their basic human needs and wants. But a quick note, right? I mean, we've got a picture of Elon here, Saint Elon, or at least he was until last year when he went a bit rogue, right, and started calling the rescue diver, the Thai rescue driver, a pedophile, and he's now being sued for, right? This is not, let me just make it clear, this is not about the kind of Silicon Valley savior complex, right, that, business will ride in and save the world, right? I think we can all agree that people, society, culture, the environment has had enough of this slogan, right? Move fast and break things. This is about thinking about how you can work together to fix things, right? We know there are huge issues and we're going to take them in turn, but think about these basic human needs and wants that people have. Think about how we can come together, how you can come together with your clients, with your team to tap in to one of these 5 trends to try and make meaningful change around these issues. Okay. So, trend number 1, right? Starting with a really, really fundamental basic human need and want, right? The desire for connection, right? Always been with us, always will be with us. But where is connection at in 2019, right? Let's just run through some, if you like, the levels of society, right? If you think about politically, right? There has never been more tension geopolitically, right? Wherever you look in the world, China, the US, North Korea, throughout Europe, right? Eastern Europe, Western Europe, etc. There is more political tension than there has been, certainly probably in most of our lifetimes. On a social level, right? Again, there are huge issues facing us. So some of you may have seen this. This is a graphical representation of what the filter bubble actually looks like when you visualize it. So this is, some people did some analysis of connections on Twitter, and they mapped people's Twitter connections, and they said, basically, people in the red quadrant connect with other people in the red quadrant, right? People in the blue quadrant connect to other people who can have similar connections, right? This is visually displayed what filter bubbles look like. We are not, on social media, we are not this kind of beautiful town square where everyone comes together and exchanges ideas like we maybe thought, hoped, were sold 10, 15 years ago, right? Let's bring it down another level to a personal level. Again, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands who feels this, right? Politically, we're more divided than ever. Socially, we're more divided than ever. On an individual level, again, we are witnessing, we are experiencing, we are living through a kind of mental health crisis, right, when it comes to the impact of using our phones, right? And kind of, again, astonishingly, or perhaps not astonishingly, right, a majority, last year, Pew did a study, for the first time ever, a majority of young people now agree with the sentiment that they are spending too much time on their phones, right? And for anyone who has kids, who's grown up with their kids obsessed with spending more and more time with technology, right, this is a huge shift. And if we look at what this is doing to people, right? And again, you know this, I won't dwell on this too much, but if you look at some of the happiest places on the world, right? The Nordic countries are always held up as being the world's happiest places, and they are, right? They're always at the top of those surveys. Well, last year, the Happiness Research Institute, they published this annual report on the state of the world's happiness, and when they look at what is happening in the world's most happiest places, you see this. Right, the proportion of young people seeking help for mental health issues risen 40% in Norway. right? You look across to Denmark, nearly 1 in 5 young people suffering from poor mental health. Right? And these are the most happy places in the world, and we are seeing an epidemic of loneliness and mental health issues, right? And David's touched on this already. So this is a kind of painful reality in which we all operate. So where does this lead us to? This leads us to our first trend, right? There's this urgent need, I'd argue, for brands to step into this frayed social fabric and to offer real-world physical experiences, that's what we're talking about here today, that help bring people together and create meaningful connections, right? And we see this, I mean, we know this is going to happen in the online space, or at least it's going to try to happen. If you look at F8, the Facebook Developer Conference that took place a couple of weeks ago, one of the big things Mark Zuckerberg, as well as privacy, went all in, said, you know, Facebook is going to redesign all of its properties around groups to help bring you together to the people that matter to you about issues that are important to you, right? And again, we'll hold our judgment about how this turns out, right? He said a similar thing 10 years ago in the digital space, so let's not take this too kind of uncritically, right? But this is a big push in the digital space, right? We see this happening. But let's look at the offline space, right? What does this trend look like in the offline world? It might look something like this. So Ibis, we all know the kind of mass market budget hotel chain, announced at the start of this year that they are going to reposition their entire brand vision around bringing the community together. Right, they're going to incentivize their hotel managers much more on food and beverage sales, right? Getting people into the hotel rather than just on room occupancy, right? This is their vision. This is what they think a hotel brand of the next decade looks like. And again, just last month, they announced their first kind of big initiative in this new brand vision was Ibis Music, which is where they will host concerts in Ibis hotels. Right. Again, I mean, let's not take this too uncritically, right? This is what most Ibis hotels look like. This is probably the image that we have, right? Of course, in a way, they're jumping on a trend that the Ace Hotel has been doing, boutique hotels have been doing for a decade, right? And again, this kind of reinforces a point that David made earlier. What starts at the niche, what starts at kind of, you know, in a more fringe sector will move across much more into the mainstream. So we're going to park our judgment about how successfully Ibis will pull off that then they will be the next kind of big underground music venue, right? But this is what they are staking their brand vision on. So of course, where does this leave, right? We say the Ace Hotel did this a decade ago. Let's look at another. Where are the experience economy, kind of physical retail pioneers? Where are they taking this trend? Right? Where are they going to take this trend next? So we look at Lululemon, which earlier this year in New York, they announced they've been doing yoga classes in their stores since they opened, right? We all know this. They've been jumped on this trend for ages. So where are Lululemon taking this trend? They are taking it to partnering with Penguin Random House to open a pop-up library. Because again, as David said, it's not enough. Physical wellness is just one part of the wellness story for consumers, right? So this is about helping you be more holistically wellness, right? They have books, you can listen to podcasts about how to, you know, be a better person and embrace all aspects of the kind of Lululemon lifestyle, right? So think about how you might partner with perhaps unexpected people, take your brand in new directions. Another kind of experience economy pioneer, right? Every report on the future of retail, every report on the future of experiences will talk about Selfridges, right? Because again, they're the pioneers in this space. So what did Selfridges do at the end of last year? They did this. So I mean, there's so much we could say about this example, right? How far we've come in a generation, right, that used to be kind of a trope of all teen angst movies, right, was the skateboarding kids being chased out of them all by the security guards, and now, right, the skateboarders are being welcomed into the retail store. Right, and we know what's happening here. Right, this is Selfridges making a play for the streetwear community. But just, I want you to think about this. You know, the Selfridges store in Oxford Street is some of the most expensive retail real estate in the world. Right? And we always hear about the future of retail being not about selling things anymore. Right? It's about having experiences. And that, I think, is an amazingly powerful example in 1 minute of what the future of retail can look like when you think about community, when you think about experiences, right, instead of just selling products. But I just want to end on this final example of this trend, because I love this example, because it just really encapsulates so many points that we want to make about trends as well. So think beyond just retail, right? So this is a healthcare business kind of provider in the US called Town Square. And what they do is they've taken over, they're about to open their second unit. Oh, and we've lost the slide. They are about to open their second unit in Baltimore. And they go into these kind of disused big box malls where a lot of the stores have closed down. And what they do, right, as you can read here, is they create like an exact replica of a 1950s American town, right, with a diner, with a jukebox playing the music of the era, with the cars, as you can see. Because what they're tapping into here is a strand of therapy called reminiscence therapy that says that if you are suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, right, your brain is deteriorating, if you are able to go back to a time in your life and recreate those experiences where your brain was functioning well, you were happy, right, that can have profoundly positive impacts on your mental cognitive function, right? It can take you back to that place, right? Now, the reason why I'm sharing this example with you, because so many lessons from it. Number one, right, we hear so much about how the experience economy is for Gen Z and millennials, right? All powerful trends cross demographics. This is a message that we say again and again, right? So think about this. This is basically the experience economy for baby boomers, right, and the silent generation. But this is about saying, you know, you're a healthcare provider. This is still about the experience economy. This trend will not just be limited to retail, to travel, right, to hospitality. Think about how you can embrace this trend no matter what industry you're in, no matter what client you're working with, right? Are there opportunities? So the first light bulb moment of this session, just want you guys to think about, right, can you take a few moments to reflect on these questions, right? Why should people ditch their phones for your experiences, right? How can you bring people together to create these meaningful moments? Right? Who might you have to collaborate with? And again, message that we always give, right? Please, God, think just beyond millennials and Gen Z. There are other consumers out there who will embrace these meaningful physical experiences. So just take a moment, think, what is the project you're working on today when you go back to the office that these examples inspire a new way of thinking about? Okay, over to you guys, 30 seconds. Okay, look, lots more thinking to take back to the office. As I said, you'll get all the slides afterwards. Look out for these examples that you want to share with your team. But let's move on. Right, trend number 2, basic need number 2. Again, just a powerfully fundamental, eternal, universal human need and want, the desire for empathy, the desire to feel treated empathetically by the brands and businesses that we deal with. Okay, and over the past decade, we've seen a huge sea change in the way brands and businesses speak to their consumers and specifically who they are speaking to. Right? We've seen plus-size models put on billboards. Right? Shock horror, because not every customer, right, is a kind of waif, size 0 waif. Right? So we've seen this huge sea change in the way brands and businesses speak to their consumers. But sometimes there's a problem, right? So this was Everlane who put this plus-size model in their latest Instagram campaign, saying, we make underwear for everyone, until this plus-size influencer pointed out that this was all great, but actually Everlane don't make... Oh, there we go. That's really killed my big reveal there. This was all great, other than the fact that Everlane do not make underwear above size XL, right? And so what about, they go down to XXXS, but they only go up to XL, right? And Everlane were forced to kind of admit publicly that, this range actually wasn't available yet and wouldn't be available for another year, right? So the truth is, in a transparent world, right, where people can engage with your brand messaging on social media, this is going to leave you, if there is a gap between your marketing and your lived customer experience, right, it is going to be exposed, you will be called out for it, and it will be increasingly intolerable for consumers. Right? So you can get the slide. There's a really great meme generator that does that for those people taking photos. So this leads us to our next trend, right, which is saying, look, in 2020, you need to move beyond thinking about inclusivity in your marketing and think about your actual customer experience, your lived customer experience, right? Because you will not be able to get away with any gaps between those two experiences, right? What does that look like in practice? As always, let's bring this to life with a few examples. Right? This might look something like this, right? And if you've been reading us, if you've read our trend report last year, you'll be familiar with this trend, right? Because we saw last year the absolute explosion in the first wave, if you like, of autism-friendly retail store environments, right? The NBA store in the US, Morrison's doing an autism-friendly quiet hour here in the UK. In the Philippines last month, the first certified autistic-friendly shopping mall opened, right? So this is a global phenomenon. This is the first business that, in a different sector, travel sector, the world's first, they're saying, villa rental company, Villa Key, as you can imagine, that rents holiday homes, and they have a section of their site now. The founder of this website has an autistic sibling, so she grew up understanding the challenges of renting a villa and finding out that it's all open plan, right? And her brother couldn't really handle with that level of noise, right, in the villa rental. So this is the world's first villa rental company where they have a special sub-brand of villas that are certified as autism friendly, right? The doorbells can be managed and quietened and things like this. So again, the reason why I share this example is because you see the same principles. What starts in one sector, in the retail sector, moving across to the travel sector, right? But let's look at another example, right? Another example here, very different flavor to this example. This is an app, a community-powered app created for and by and with plus-size people, currently in beta testing in Portland. And this is like the Yelp for plus-size dining experiences. So this is people saying, when I go to this restaurant, are the benches actually fixed really close to the table so it's difficult for me to sit down, right? Is there flexible seating? And when they launched this app, they said that their words, as your body gets bigger, your world gets smaller. Right? This is the pain point that they are trying to tackle, right? Thinking about how experiences can be inclusive for everyone. Let's take a look at another strand of this trend, right? And you can see the story that we're building to here. Right? This is IKEA. IKEA in Israel recently partnered with these two non-profits focused on helping people with physical disabilities to help launch a range of authorized hacks to make the IKEA products that they produce more accessible. Right? And again, I just want you to think about, 5 years ago, IKEA famously tried to sue the owner of IKEAHacks.com. Right? They tried to shut down this level of grassroots community engagement. Right? They said, we are IKEA, we want to control everything. Fast forward 5 years, and IKEA now are creating products that look like this. And I just want to think, so that's obviously a great example, but I just want to zoom out a second and think about the bigger picture here, right? Because some of you might be thinking, okay, but this is, this is quite niche, right? Like maybe we have some disabled customers, and yeah, it's probably the right thing to do, but I'm going to have a hard job selling this in to my team, right? Or to, my client, whatever. But if you think about the long-term future of this, and you think about where the world is heading, we would argue that this is a massive, massive opportunity. Because the WHO recently published a study last year saying currently there are 1 billion people in the world who require some form of assisted device, right, to help them engage in these experiences. But if you project forward, right, this number is expected to double in the next decade. Right? There will be 2 billion people in the world looking for these experiences that have some assisted design built into this. And again, the obvious macro trends that are playing out here. Think about the world's aging population. Right? I was reading an article just yesterday from Don Norman, the father of user experience design in Fast Company. And he said, we are all disabled in some way at some moment. Right? And so this, I would argue, is actually incredibly good business, right? Because the lessons that you learn from designing products and services and experiences for people with whatever strand of disability in inverted commas today will be the mainstream consumers of tomorrow, right? And helping make your products more accessible, easier to use, is only going to be a good thing in the future, right? And so that's a very low-tech example, the last example I shared with you, the IKEA example, right? Just printing, extra large buttons on the light switch. But think about also what technology might do for this trend. I just want to close this trend with a final example from Huawei. And again, don't want to get into the debates about privacy and what's happening, in the political sphere with Huawei. But Huawei, at the end of last year, partnered with this non-profit in Poland to create this initiative. And we'll just watch a video that explains it far better than I can.
The blind and visually impaired have many abilities that help them navigate the world. But there is one thing they can't do: read other people's faces and expressions. Could technology help them somehow see a smile? Huawei facing emotions. It's simple. Point the Huawei Mate 20 Pro towards a person. The camera then recognizes the emotion on their face, and AI then translates this into a unique sound. Now a blind or visually impaired person can actually hear your smile. This process happens in real time and works in offline mode, all made possible thanks to the Mate 20 Pro's advanced camera, AI chipset, and powerful processor. We worked hand in hand with the visually impaired community to create a user experience and app interface that was easy to navigate. The sounds representing each emotion were crafted in cooperation with a visually impaired composer. We also wanted to design a special holder to make using the app and phone itself intuitive. For this, we joined forces with a respected designer who created a unique holder in a form accessible for all. This simple app proves how technology can help more people to see more of the world.
Yeah, so amazing stuff, right? Super powerful, incredibly inspirational. But what I want you guys to think about are these questions, right? I'll just give you another minute to think about, having seen those 3 or 4 examples. We've looked at various different demographics. We've looked at very different ways that you might be able to make your design, your experiences more inclusive. Right? So just take a moment to think about your own business. Think about your client's business. Think about the steps in the customer journey. Having seen those examples, is there a light bulb moment sparking in your head about something that you could replicate or adapt from those? Okay, over to you guys. Okay. So I hate, in a way, to interrupt some of the conversations, but I imagine there's way more than 60 seconds worth of thinking there. But what I wanted you guys to do when I give you these moments is just to jot down, which is the example that you're going to remember, which is the strand that you want to pursue when you get back to the office. Okay, trend number 3, another kind of powerful basic human need and want, powerful mega trend that David's already touched on, this desire to feel that you are a good person, right? I think we hopefully that is a pretty universal human need, right? Not many people want to think that they're a bad, evil person creating a negative impact by the things they do. But what is happening to challenge this basic need, right? It is, of course, the rise of transparency, right? We see this again. This is a driver that shapes so many of the trends that we're talking about here today, right? Rising transparency, that allows us to see things that previously would have otherwise remained hidden from us, right? So again, open up your laptop any day of the week, there will be a news story like this. Just from a couple of weeks ago, The Verge got access to some documents that now prove that Amazon is now automatically firing some of its warehouse workers. I mean, this is, the kind of dystopian nightmare that we are sleepwalking into, right? If you are now an Amazon worker and you're in the warehouse and you do not kind of hit your performance goals, by which they mean running around like dare to take a bathroom break, you can be automatically terminated with no human involvement. I mean, this is a kind of terrifying vision of one potential future, right? And this is just a glimpse, right, of a trend that, again, if you've been following us for any length of time, you will be aware that we've been banging on about now for a couple of years, which is this shift from businesses being a black box to businesses being glass boxes, right, where consumers can see inside what happens within your organization, and of course they care, right? They care because of this basic fundamental human need and want for authenticity. We want to be good people, and if we are now aware that the brands and businesses that we're spending our time, attention, money with are not doing good things, this is painful to us, right? I mean, we're all guilty of it, right? I have countless Amazon parcels arrive at the house or the office every day, right? Or every week, hopefully. And, when I read news stories like that, that is painful, right? Because do I want to be supporting a world? I like to think of myself as a good person, but my actions maybe are now proving that I'm not the person that I want to be, right? So this is painful. And we see this, right? And again, as David said, we've been speaking to consumers about some of these when we've been working on projects, and here's just a glimpse, it won't surprise you, of this in action.
When I found out that Uber didn't treat their drivers well, I did stop using them, and I exclusively use Lyft. I don't like it. People are just trying to make a living. People are working hard, and they shouldn't be at a company that treats them poorly. And I won't support a company that does that.
So, not surprising, right? But it's still powerful to hear it from consumers. And I imagine some of you, right, if you asked some of your consumers this, you may hear answers like that perhaps are not that comfortable to listen to. Oh, this has gone even worse than normal. Bear with us. We have a full-on crash. The future experience is seamless, as you can see. Okay, so why are we looking at this trend, right? Why are we looking at glassbox brands? Why are we looking at internal culture when it comes to future experiences? Right? And it is, of course, because if you are in the business of creating experiences for and with your customers, your people ultimately are that experience, right? We've said that consumers are interested in what happens inside your business because of their desire to feel like a good person, but also literally the level of experience that you create for your customers will depend on how engaged, how motivated, how connected your employees are to that experience, which leads us to our next trend. Right, that consumers will increasingly seek out experiences from brands and businesses and organizations that promote the flourishing and well-being of their own people. So what might that look like in practice, right? That might look something like this. And I love this example, right? I just have to get the story right. This is a Texan barbecue restaurant in Mexico City run by this American entrepreneur, right? So he brings a little slice of America to Mexico City. And when Trump was ramping up his rhetoric, anti-immigration rhetoric last year, this guy saw an opportunity. And he said, right, if you are a Mexican who's been deported from the US, right, for overstaying your visa or whatever, come to our restaurant. We will have a job for you, right? Because we believe that, well, it's the right thing to do as part of our brand, but we want people who've lived in the US to help us provide a superior customer experience, right? So we will give you the American holidays. We will pay you American holidays. It's not a great offer, is it? But, you know, you will get the American holidays. We will pay you, you know, way above Mexican minimum wage. We will pay you American minimum wage. Again, probably not amazing. But, you know, we will create a little slice of America, and this will be part of our brand identity. This will be part of how we offer a superior customer experience. So that's a bit of a PR stunt, a bit of a fun example. But you can see how this trend can be amplified, right, to really deliver meaning to and for and with your staff. So in January of this year, Marriott announced that they had trained 500,000 of their staff globally in how to spot the signs of human trafficking. Right? And they put all these staff, whether it's barmen, cleaners, etc., through this training program, right? Because, of course, that's a huge issue, right? If you're a frontline staff member in a hotel, this is something that you may or sadly probably will see at some point. And think about what this does to the connection that your staff will have with your business, right? If you are a housekeeper, if you're a barman, whatever, if you're a concierge, and you step in using this training and save someone who's being trafficked in that hotel, think of how much more engagement you will have, right, with the brand. Think of how much more meaning your role will have, that you've quite literally saved someone's life, potentially, right? So you can see how this trend can have profound positive benefits, but also help you deliver more meaningful customer experiences for and with your customers. Right? So that's a very serious example, very profound example. I just want to give another kind of totally ridiculous example on the other side of the spectrum. Right? This is Lalo. This is a Swedish sex toy brand who said, you know, we're going to treat our staff, right, but in a very different way. We're going to give them 4 orgasm days every year, right, as a perk. So this is like a duvet day, right? Oh, this projector's really not liking us. It didn't like that example. We've been censored. So this is about, obviously, a totally different manifestation of that same trend. Right? And again, I just use these 2 examples to paint that you can take these trends in many different directions at the same time. Well, not at the same time. Probably that would be a very weird trafficking training session. But right, you can take these trends and apply them in many different ways, many different contexts. So the final example I just want to give in this trend is just to think, right, we're talking about culture, we're talking about how to engage your employees. Right? Let's not get away from the fact that ultimately pay is culture. Right? And engaging your employees through paying them a fair wage is going to be a massive part of this. Right? And I just want to end on this example because we opened on that image of Disneyland, right, and said your staff are your experience. You may have seen in the news, right, that the heiress to the Disney fortune has come out and said it's disgusting, how much the CEO is paid relative to the park workers, right? And this will damage the kind of legacy of Disney, right? Because, how can these entertainers in the park give a great experience, give the experience that my grandfather, dreamed of, if they're worried about how to put food on the table? So this final example I just wanted to share with you, again, kind of subverts our expectations around how to give a meaningful experience. And David spoke about automation in the first session, right? And again, we constantly hear about how technology is going to destroy jobs, right? And it's going to ruin people's lives. And I just want to share this example with you as a really interesting twist on this conventional wisdom. Because this is an example called Alice. And this is a platform where what it does, right, is similar in the US, very similar to here in the UK, right? As an employee, you can deduct certain expenses against your pre-tax income, right, to save money, right? Put more money in your pocket. Your bike, ride to work scheme we have here in the UK, right? If you're a freelancer, you can deduct your travel expenses to work, et cetera, right? Now, if you're a nice kind of, white collar worker, you might have an HR department that helps you with this, right? That makes this easy for you, that handles some of the paperwork. If you're an hourly worker, right, working in a coffee shop or working, making burritos on production line, you probably don't have that, right? It's a high turnover environment. The business is just not set up to help you in the same way. So this is a platform called Alice that you connect your debit card to it if you're an hourly worker, and it scans your spending, and every time it recognizes a potentially tax-deductible expense, right, as you can see here, your ride to work in the morning, right, you spent $30 on a Metro card, is that work-related? You just reply yes, and it will automatically handle all the paperwork. Right? And when they tested this, of course, in a kind of Brooklyn coffee shop, right? That was where it launched earlier this year. They said that the average barista saw a pay increase of $40 to $60 a month, right? Which is the equivalent of doing an extra shift. So this, to this community, of hourly workers, this is really meaningful. And think about the experience that will allow your employees to give to customers, right? As the founder of this said, it normally takes an act of Congress to give people that level of pay rise, right? This is a material pay rise to people on minimum wage, right? So I just wanted to share that example with you because I wanted you guys to think about, if you want to tap into this trend, right? Think about how you might deploy, maybe it's technology, maybe it's training, maybe it's perks, but think about how you can tackle this. Get out there and engage with your employees and help them deliver a more meaningful experience for and with your customers. Okay, so take a minute to think about these examples. Okay. Next trend, I want to look at, again, another fundamental basic human need and want that has, if we're honest, been very challenged, right, over the past decade, really over human history. And this is this desire for, or this need for empowerment, this desire to be empowered. Right? And if you look at the symbols in our culture, in our media, of people in positions of power, right, you can see that over the past few years, we're witnessing a seismic shift in who we look up to, who wields power. Right? We're moving from James Bond to T'Challa in Black Panther. Right? We're moving from David Beckham when it comes to sport to Colin Kaepernick. Right? When you look at a different sphere, politics, right? We're moving from Maggie Thatcher to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right? Or, again, in political power, we're moving from these kind of, very masculine, very aggressive senses of power to much more inclusive, much more kind, much more empathetic notions of power. Right? And I think that's just a really, really important, I know, I love this image. This is just a really, really important point to make, is that not only are the people in positions of power beginning to change, right? And we're not saying this trend is fully realized yet, beginning to change, but also because of that, it's the way and the nature of power that is exercised is also changing. As you see here, much more empathetic, much more kind, right? And again, I'm oversimplifying again, right? We have Trump in the White House, we have Theresa May, and in our politics we have Viktor Orban in Hungary, okay? So we're not saying this is universal, right? But we're saying there are green shoots that point towards a really important shift. And that is this idea of we're entering an era of new power generation, right? A world where traditionally marginalized groups are able to access and hungry demand to access the knowledge, networks, and experiences that they've previously been excluded from. So in the startup space, that might look something like Chief, which is this network of a kind of CEO or people on the CEO track, women on the CEO track, a kind of mentoring community. But they've also opened this physical meeting space in New York City that is modeled on the idea of an old boys club, the old men's club, right? Kind of subverting the traditional symbols of power and exclusion and co-opting them themselves. It might look something like Visa sponsoring a global series of networking and events aimed at, again, empowering and supporting female entrepreneurs. And why are they doing this? They're doing this because of these stats. Right, last year, Fortune did some analysis at the start of this year. Over 3/4 of all VC investment in the US, went to all male founding teams. Does anyone want to have a guess at the percentage of VC investment that went to all female founding teams? Anyone want to have a guess? Just shout out. 2, yeah, I heard 2. It's 2.2%. Right? I mean, this is just an astonishing gap. But again, think of who is in the position of power when it comes to making those investment decisions. But the irony, right, and why this is such an exciting trend, why it's such a kind of huge opportunity, right, is BCG, the consulting group, did some analysis. So, all women founding teams getting much less investment, but when it comes to performance, right, for every dollar of investment received, male-founded startups are able to turn that into 31 cents of revenue. Okay, that's not returns, otherwise the whole industry would be losing money. But for every dollar of investment put into a VC, that a VC puts in, a male founding team will turn that into 31 cents of revenue. Anyone want to have a guess at what the equivalent figure for a dollar invested in a female-founded startup is? 54. Anyone else? 70, yeah, exactly. Over double, right? So I think it's 78 is the actual out. So and again, we see these statistics. Again, they're kind of shocking when you put them on the screen, but I see people nodding. In a way, we're not surprised because we are waking up as a society to these realities, right? When every news story comes out sharing these stories. So that's gender. But again, of course, you look at other positions of power, right? Who is in positions of power in other dimensions, right? Earlier this year, it was announced that Prada introduced their first Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Council. This was them acknowledging that if you look at the makeup of who runs, who controls the fashion industry, it is deeply, deeply undiverse, right? Again, a fact that won't surprise anyone. And again, this is urgent. I mean, let's not pretend they did this out of the goodness of their own heart, right? If you look at what triggered them to take this step, right, it was the fact that they got pilloried in the press because someone in Prada, how this ever got put in stores, right, in the top left, that was their shop display in the Prada window, right? And again, they're not the only ones. You look, I mean, this is just from the last 9 months, all of these stories, right? Gucci producing this sweatshirt, Burberry producing a hoodie that has a noose around the neck, and then, famously H&M having their stores ransacked in South Africa after they thought it was a good idea to produce a hoodie saying coolest monkey in the jungle. I mean, how can you have organizations that are able to produce products and services that look like this, right? And it's just kind of shocking, but again, sadly, not as shocking as it should be. But we see this again and again, right? There are signals of change happening. Right, if you were reading the newspapers over the weekend, you will have seen this. Right, Rihanna partnering with LVMH to launch a new fashion, well, to bring Fenty into the LVMH fashion house. Right, and I love this example from the New York Times. The first woman to create an original brand, first woman of color at the top of a maison. right? First new brand they're launching since 1987. And this final sentence here, this is a recognition, finally, that growth in the luxury industry may no longer just come from reinventing old heritage names, right? Celebrating the Burberry fabric, kind of saying, look, we can update this. But by embracing a new, diverse, digital, direct-to-consumer communication reality. Right? This is the world we are entering into, and not a moment too soon. So again, when you look around, you start to see all these signals of this trend building. Right? And this could be about creating new experiences that people have been previously excluded from. So this is a group of employees at Snapchat called Snap Noir. It's an internal employee activism group. And they said to celebrate Black History Month in the US, let's create an augmented reality art gallery that celebrates black artists who are traditionally excluded from real physical world art galleries. Right? So again, think about how you can deploy this trend in many, many different ways. So that's race. We've looked at race and gender, but I just want to end this trend with a final example that says, this is about all sorts of marginalized groups. Right? If you look over to China, a huge divide in the Chinese market, society, economy at the moment is the gap between urban, increasingly wealthy, increasingly affluent, sophisticated consumers and rural consumers. Right? Huge potential issues around migration, social stability, etc. And Taobao, right? So Taobao, the e-commerce platform that, if you've heard us talk about this before, we've been looking at them for a number of years. Right? One of the big initiatives that Taobao have is this Taobao Live platform, which is where producers, right, influencers, whatever it is, live stream, kind of it's like individual QVC channels, basically, right, where they live stream shows where people can shop directly from the screen. And a huge subset of this live streaming commerce phenomena is with farmers. Right? Because again, a huge issue in the Chinese market is Chinese consumers are terrified of the provenance of their food. Right? Food safety scandals, right? For us, it's an indulgence, eating organic. If you're in China, if you don't eat organic, you may die, right? I mean, that is the basic human need and want there that they're tapping into. But last year, right, Taobao saw they have over 150,000 farmers live streaming from their farms. This is a tea planter, a tea farmer, right, who live streams these tea ceremonies so that people affluent urban Chinese consumers can see the fields, see the mountains where their tea is grown. Right? And last year, these streams had over 400 million views, just to give you a sense of the scale of this phenomena. And in the week before Chinese New Year this year, Taobao had a huge push, kind of investment in celebrating Chinese farmers. Right? And again, you understand all the local reasons why they're doing this. This is about being able to say to the Chinese government, we're helping promote social stability and bridge this gap between the rural and urban divide. So there are many, many local context-specific drivers behind this specific example that we're sharing, right? And David mentioned this in the first session, right? We're not saying rush out and put farmers on a live stream show and that's the future of experiences, right? But we're walking you through, I hope, a number of examples that paint a picture that say this is one future for experiences, right? Bringing people together in new ways, right? Empowering groups that were previously marginalized to embrace, as I say, the access, the networks, the knowledge, and the experiences that they've previously been excluded from. And hopefully these examples give you a diverse picture of what that might look like. And so what I'd urge you guys to do is to take a few moments just to think about what this looks like in the context of your business. Right? Think about these questions on the screen behind me. Which groups could you empower? Right? How might you do this? Who could you partner with to do this? And think in many, many different dimensions. Okay, over to you guys. Okay. Look, the final trend I want to touch on here today, or wrap up the session with, it is, of course, a massive one. Right, because we started this session by saying, look, we know the experience economy is here, consumers are hungry for it, but there are huge issues caused by our pursuit of experiences. And of course, there's a huge elephant in the room that we haven't yet mentioned in this final session, and that is the impact that we are having on the planet. Right, I touched on it right at the beginning, but this is, of course, a massive, massive challenge, issue, but also a massive desire amongst consumers. As we said, this desire to leave a legacy, or to leave a positive legacy, certainly to not leave a negative legacy. We don't want to be the generation that literally destroys the planet. Right? And we've seen, of course, the last 12, 18 months, this trend just absolutely explode. And we've been tracking this, since we were founded, right, as a business, but we've seen this trend explode in awareness over the past 18 to 20 months, right? And standing here in the UK, I mean, many of you, almost everyone I imagine, saw the David Attenborough documentary, right, The Blue Planet, and that was this kind of trigger moment that just seemed to cause everyone to wake up, right? But of course, think about this. I mean, we just see this signal after signal wherever you look now in the world. I love this. Collins said their word of the year 2018 was single use, right? You just look for these signals and you can start to see a seismic shift happening in consumer behavior, right? But it's not just the kind of the superficial consumer-facing drivers that caused this to explode. Right? I just wanted to show you again, this is again how we think about trends and how we spot these trends. Right? So yes, you saw things like Blue Planet raise awareness. You see signals like single use being word of the year. But there's also other drivers at play here. Right? And a really important one that I think we think is often overlooked is this. Right? Between 1992 and last year, nearly 3/4 of all plastic waste globally ended up in China and Hong Kong. But what happened is in the start of last year, China reached the stage, they're wealthy enough now, they said, you know what, we don't want to take your rubbish, right? We don't want to be the world's dumping ground. We're not going to process everyone's recycling. We're going to close the door, right? And I'm sure many of you have read about the impact of this, where it's happening, what this has done to the world's treatment of waste and recycling, right? But that's just an example of how you can spot trends coming by looking at the signals, right? The triggers, the news stories that were going to change the environment in which we operate in. But what has that led us to, right? This increased awareness of all the negative impacts of our consumption, right? And it's led us to this guilt spiral, right, as consumers. Like, we want to have these amazing experiences, but we feel increasingly guilty about the impact that they have. And that, of course, leads us to this final trend that I want to end on, which is the rise of and the search for guilt-free experiences. Right, the huge opportunity to create experiences that are, still magical, but are still delightful, that are still compelling, that still say something about who we are as people, but do so without, hopefully, any of the negative impacts. So let's look again at how this looks like in practice. Right, we see this. I mean, again, don't need to tell anyone in this room. Right, plastic waste is one of the key concerns for not just British consumers, but consumers globally. Right? And so we start to see, if you are in the business of creating experiences, you need to start thinking about how to reduce the guilt associated with those experiences. Right? And I love this example. Just a couple of weeks ago, I'm sure many of you will have read about this, right? The London Marathon, they said, look, we hand out close to 1 million plastic bottles during the race. Right? And you've all seen the pictures, just like the picture of Glastonbury that I opened with, right? The kind of streets littered in plastic after the London Marathon. Right? So yeah, on the one hand, you're having this great experience to prove how fit you are, to raise money for charity, etc., but you're kind of leaving all this negative environmental impact. And so what they did this year at the final water station in the London Marathon, right, they handed out these biodegradable seaweed-based drinks capsules filled with water. So the runners, as you can see, could just grab them, pop them in their mouth, and there was no plastic waste. Right? And they said that this reduced the number of plastic bottles that the London Marathon handed out by over 200,000. Right? So we're not there yet. We're not at zero, but we're making steps. Right? So this is just one, very, very kind of momentary, ephemeral experience, But again, if you think about some of the other experiences we've had, many of us have had it just here this morning, right? We have these experiences in our day-to-day life that increasingly we're starting to feel guilty about. Right? And again, just here's a short video from someone that came up in one of the projects we were working on.
There's a lot of talk about straws and things like that, but I think it seems like the rest of the experience actually is probably pretty landfill heavy with cups and lids and materials that are used to make it. So it's kind of the unknown. I feel like it's a little bit like there's an underbelly there waiting to be exposed.
And the reason why I just include that is because I just love that line, because I think if you bring that into many of your businesses and ask your consumers a similar question, you know, there's this kind of dark underbelly waiting to be exposed, right? I have these experiences with you, but I'm kind of conscious that sooner or later, someone is going to shine a light on the environmental impact of that experience, and then I will start to feel guilty about it. And again, I opened the session by looking back at an example that we talked about before, the Impossible Burger, and I just want to come close to closing the session with a similar thing. Because if you read our trend report at the end of last year, we looked at this example. This was Starbucks and McDonald's, the #1 and #3 distributors of takeaway coffee cups globally, coming together, right, they're fierce competitors in the coffee market, right, the kind of fast casual coffee market, coming together to say, look, we know that this is a huge, huge issue, and we will jointly fund this competition. It's a $10 million competition, inviting startups to try and solve the problem of the single-use coffee cup, right? Which, if you've done any research on it, you will know is really, really hard to recycle, right? Because how do you keep hot liquid, you know, safe from the consumer? And just literally at the end of February, they announced the first wave of winners in this competition. So here's just one of them. This is a Finnish coffee cup maker, and they produce this coffee cup that can now be recycled, can be composted in traditional recycling plants, right, which was always the big barrier, right? So you had to send these cups off to a special facility. So again, the link's in the notes. Do look into this if this is an issue, you know, that you are thinking about. But what I really want you to take away is think about what that signals to the market, right? Starbucks and McDonald's, two of the biggest competitors in the industry, coming together and saying, this issue is bigger than us. You know, we will come together to solve this, or try and solve this, to strip the guilt out of your daily cup of coffee. But of course, it's not just straws, it's not just plastic, right? There's all of these other, if you like, dimensions of guilt that consumers increasingly are faced with, right? Food waste is another one, right? Well, again, it won't surprise anyone in this room, like food waste after plastic, a huge issue. And I just want to share these next couple of examples with you, again, to illustrate a different point about how we think about trends and why we get so excited when we see some of these innovations. So this is Hilton in the US. Right, the hotel operator, and they said that they recently partnered with this platform, Food Maven, which allows them to buy surplus food produce that was about to be wasted from local farmers. And when they launched this partnership, the GM of Hilton in the region in the US where they were trialing this, they said this is like a double win for Hilton. Because what we found is our food costs went down because we were buying cheaper produce because it was about to be wasted. And it meant we could tell consumers the story that the food they were being served was more local, it was more artisan, they were supporting local farmers, right? So again, when you see these innovations, like, think about how you can try and tick all the boxes, right? Where you can have a win for your organization, but also a win for what consumers want, and strip out some of this guilt, right? And then the same brand, right? Just doing something very different here in London, again, on a different dimension of guilt. And so earlier this year, they partnered with Bombas and Par and the Vegan Society to create what they're calling the world's first vegan hotel suite. So all the material, there's no leather in there. All of the cosmetic products, like the shampoo, the conditioner, is made from vegan brands, etc. Right? So again, the reason why I'm sharing these two examples, same business, but different dimensions of guilt. Right? And so think about every step of your customer experience. Think about those moments. Think about where consumers might feel guilty, and think about how you can tackle that guilt and create these new experiences that don't leave consumers feeling as guilty. The final example I want to end on here, right, is just one of our favourite examples from the last couple of years. And this, I'm sure many of you will have read about this. This is Bjarne Ingels, the kind of the star architect, the Danish star architect. And he was commissioned by the kind of municipal waste-to-energy provider in Copenhagen to say, could you reimagine what this kind of very functional, very undesirable object could represent, right? So think about your neighbourhood. Not many people are clamouring to have a waste-to-energy unit in their local neighbourhood, right? This is not something that we typically embrace as consumers. And he reimagined this by saying, what would it look like if we put, as you can see, if we put a ski slope on the roof? Right? And he has this wonderful phrase that I'm kind of jealous that we didn't coin, right, which is hedonistic sustainability. Right? He said, let's cater to people's basic human needs and wants. We know people want to enjoy themselves, right? That's not going to go away. But they also are looking, again, you know, in our words, to not have so much guilt around those experiences. So let's put a ski slope on this. Right? And let's just take a quick look at what this looks like in reality. I mean, look at that smile, right? You couldn't imagine having that experience in a waste-to-energy facility, right? So, if there's one thought I'd urge you guys to take with you as you head back to the offices, right, when you're thinking about the experiences that you will go and create in the next 12 months, can you eliminate any moment, right, where consumers might experience guilt on whatever dimension? And we've looked at 4 or 5 there. Right? Can you think about how you might be able to create magical, exciting, indulgent, hedonistic, in Bjarne Ingels' words, experiences? Because we know that's what people will want, and that's not going to go away. But can you think about how you can create those experiences in ways that also have, at best, no compromise, at worst, no compromise, that at best even have a positive impact on society, on the environment? Okay. We started this session by saying, you know, we're going to look at 5 big trends. But again, right, as we keep on hammering home, our methodology is not just to look at the trends of today, but to think about the basic human needs and wants that underpin those trends, right? And what I've done in this session, hopefully, is look at these big basic human needs and wants that are really being challenged, right, by the world, by politics, by society, by culture, by the environment that we live in today, right? There are huge issues facing us in this society today, right? We all know that. But what I urge you guys to do, and I hand over to you to head back to the office, is to think about how you could use some of these basic human needs, how you could use some of these challenges to unlock future opportunities to create a better world for all of us. And with that, let me hand over to David to wrap up this session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Henry. Thank you. So look, everyone, it falls to me to wrap up super quickly. We started this morning, Henry started this morning outlining the huge question that obsesses us at TrendWatching: what will your customers want next? And of course, it was all about, with particular reference to experiences, what kind of experiences are they going to want next? And you've seen how we tackle that question. It's not this way. You know, we don't have a magic crystal ball, unfortunately. It's all about looking in a structured way out to the world of innovations, the new products, the services, the campaigns, the experiences, the business models that innovators are launching now, that consumers are engaging with now, and asking a few structured questions about those innovations to interrogate them for the signals they are sending to us about where consumer expectations are heading next, okay? That's what we do relentlessly at TrendWatching. That's what we've done this morning. You guys have seen a ton of innovations as we've gone through the morning. You've seen this, Flyzoo, Alibaba's automated hotel. You've just seen this, Henry's favourite example of the day, I think, this waste-to-energy unit with or plant with a ski slope on the top of it. We've seen this, Oculus venues, massive evolution in the way people are going to experience live concerts now inside virtual reality. I hope you've taken your light bulb moments. I'd love you to leave today just asking yourself, what is that one light bulb moment that I must run back to my team with? That one innovation, that one insight that I can take back to my team and be like, yes, we must do something with this. Hopefully you've had 1, 3, 5, even more than that, I hope. But just what is it that you can distill from this morning to take back to your team and use? As well, of course, as the innovations, the trends, the insights. As we said right at the top of the day, I hope we've just given you something broader than that. And that is the beginnings of a new way of looking at the world around you, this new way of seeing the world that can empower you guys to become your own trend watchers. Because what we do is very far from rocket science. Anyone can do it. It's just about going out into the world, like I say, with this structured way of looking at the world around you. We all see a ton of new stuff. Change is relentless. You're out there, you're online, you're seeing new products, services, campaigns. It's relentless. It can feel extremely overwhelming. If you just go out into the world with this simple framework, you can become your own trend watcher. You can start to spot trends of your own. So just as a final reminder of that framework, look, when you go out into the world, you see a new innovation, a new product, a new service, just ask yourself, number one, what is changing in the world to make this innovation possible? Is it often a new technology? Is it a new social moment? Is it a new economic moment? What has shifted? What has changed that makes this innovation possible? Number two, what is the basic human need this innovation is serving? Is it like convenience? Is it value? Is it delight, excitement? Is it love? What is the human need that is being aimed at by this innovation? And the final question, if you just ask yourself one question whenever you see something new, just ask yourself, what new consumer expectations, like what new human expectations is this innovation going to generate? When people see this, when they use it, when they see it or hear about it, what will they start to expect from us? Okay? If you go out into the world using that simple framework, applying that framework to the things you see, like I say, you can become your own trend watcher. You can start to spot powerful new trends of your own. As for today, as Henry said, all the PowerPoints, the decks are yours to take away. So if you missed a title, you missed a slide, anything like that, don't worry about it. We will send an email to you tomorrow morning. These are all yours to download. And then it just remains for you to do something with these trends. Okay? Knowing about trends makes nothing happen. You have to use them. You have to put them to work. Apply these trends to create amazing experiences in 2020 and rock your light bulb moments. Okay, it just remains for me very quickly to say some super quick thank yous. Number one is to the team behind this event. It takes a lot to put an event like this on. So the logistics team, the front of house, the people running the live stream, the team here at the venue, thank you so much for helping us put on today's event. And the second big thank you is, of course, to all of you. Like I say, we're obsessed with trends at TrendWatching. It's what we do every day. But it's always a huge privilege to come out, to see people like you, the innovators, putting these trends to work. It's great to see your passion, your enthusiasm, your determination to create amazing new experiences. So thank you so much to all of you for coming. And thank you on the live stream too, for attending on the live stream. And that's it from us. I think it's fair to say thank you so much. It's been super fun. And thank you for listening to us. Thank you.